What's up, A to Z Sports DocTalk live here on this Monday. Austin Stanley alongside Dr. Scott Arthur of the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org. That is where you should turn whenever injuries happen in life. They've got all the specialists that know how to get you back to health there at the Bone and Joint Institute in Franklin. A dozen plus physicians there at the Bone and Joint Institute that can take care of you, whether it's a knee, like we're about to talk about with Hendon Hooker, Vols quarterback, out with a torn ACL in his left knee, and real bummer. And, we'll talk a lot of things. And Dr. Arthur, I know we're both Tennessee guys, so this was something that I think hurt really, really big over the weekend on Saturday. But thanks for jumping on here on this Monday to do this with me.
No, thanks for having me. Hey, we're talking about what we're talking about, but good to be with you.
Well, I'll tell you this. I realized this yesterday, that 13 years ago this week, you repaired my left ACL. So wow. It was a Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
That ages both of us a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. I know, right? But anyway, let's dive into this. Hendon Hooker out now. For all the South Carolina fans that will somehow stumble upon this stream, in no way is Hendon Hooker's injury why South Carolina beat Tennessee. I think we all understand that South Carolina really got after the Vols on Saturday night in Columbia. But Dr. Arthur, I think a lot of Vol fans right now are just thinking why after all these plays this season, 450 times Hendon Hooker either threw the ball, ran the ball, or got sacked, and he was okay, but something happened in South Carolina Saturday night, and he goes down with an ACL tear.
No, absolutely. And in general, I think a lot of people, when you hear ACL tear, assume that it was a contact and somebody, knee got hit and blown up. About 80% of them are like this, which are non-contact, pivot, plant your foot, cut, go one way, and have a pivoting, twisting type mechanism that's tear your ACL. So pretty classic, typical. When you watch the video, it's what we see, when guys tear their ACL, and ultimately a lot of bad luck. I don't know if there's any other way to look at it other, he obviously made that kind of play and cut thousands of times, and for whatever reason, just weight got going the wrong way, foot got planted, called a little bit, and here we are.
Is there a reason why, like you mentioned, just one time, one wrong thing and it goes? Because athletes do these type of things, whether it's off-season training and obviously in games and in practice every week. Why do things happen like this? Is it is it something that works its way up over time where it's going to happen at some point, or is it just a freak thing overall?
No, I think it's more of a freak thing. I mean, it's not a weakness in the ACL that develops over time, or, chronic stress or anything that way. Now, we do see things that make athletes more at risk, especially in the female athletes, but we'll try to train with hip strength and kind of body awareness and the way you cut and pivot and jump and things that way, and fatigue can play into it. But I think in this situation, it's more of just a freak accident that happens.
Yeah, and Dr. Arthur, we'll play the play here in a second. We'll watch it, and it's a loop on 4 different times. But something, and we've talked about ACLs with these DocTalk segments a lot, whether it's Robert Woods, whether it's Taylor Lewan, or Bud Dupree. Several Titans players have had ACLs that we've talked about over the last couple of years. But we've talked about turf versus grass field before, and I think everybody understands that turf has a different type of give. But grass usually doesn't have this. But there has been a big conversation over social media about this, about some of the sand that's underneath South Carolina's field on that surface. And you can see when Hooker makes the cut, you can see the sand fly up in the air. And it's something that, I don't have much experience with playing on a sand underground field or anything like that. But do you think sand has any mistake in this, or does it have any impact in what happened with Hendon Hooker's knee Saturday night?
I don't know if there's a definite answer to that. And as far as the sand, any turf field tends to have either rubber or silicon type infill to soften it. In general, if you look at studies, there probably still is a little higher incidence of ACL tears on turf as opposed to grass. I mean, if you look at the old AstroTurf, it was horrible, and they continue to make strides as far as safety. But ultimately, I think you'd always say grass is going to be probably the safest surface. As far as the exact turf they have down and the infill that they're using, I don't know if I have any information on that. But it's the turf, you would say, probably makes you a little more prone to it, but hard to quantify that.
Yeah, I guess with the turf, is it because is it less giving, or is it there's the particles that are moving underneath it with like the rubber pellets? Why does that
I
happen
think
that way?
it's the, your foot easier to get caught. I mean, if you look, you plant your foot, and if it doesn't give a little bit, able to have a stronger stress on the knee. So as opposed to grass, which is going to have a little bit more give.
Dr. Scott Arthur here from the Bone and Joint Institute talking about Hendon Hooker's ACL tear from Saturday night in South Carolina from the Bone and Joint Institute. Now, unfortunately, it does end Hendon Hooker's college career. And now we look towards his NFL career and a lot of domino effects of what happens with this. You have Hendon Hooker, who has a team looking for a college football playoff bid. That went away with how that game went even before the injury. Then you're thinking Sugar Bowl. He's thinking Heisman Trophy. All of that stuff is out. And now he's maybe a fringe first round prospect if he goes through the combine, pro day, and all these pre-draft situations. He could work his way up to being a high draft pick off of the last 2 seasons he's had at Tennessee. Now that's up in the air as well. So I kind of, if let's just say Hooker has surgery in the next 2 weeks or so, which is a typical timeline. Pro days mid-March. He's about 3 to 4 or 5 months out of that surgery. What are some type of things that he could be doing physically to get ready for the draft and show NFL scouts that he is still worthy of taking with a draft pick?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he's going to have good care and good successful surgery and rehab, which will be really important. I mean, if you look at that timeline, I think he'll be fine getting out throwing the football. Will he be mobile and showing his athleticism and jumping and cutting and full speed? No. And obviously not going to want to push that and risk re-injury or anything that way. So I think he'll be able to show his arm talent. And then obviously that's going to be a tough decision with he and his advisors of whether, how much do you try to go push and show versus, resting on all your tape. But I think he'll have the ability to get out and throw and show what he can do. Already has shown that he can do there. He won't be running 40s and jumping and sprinting out and making big cut type athletic moves at that point. So he'll still be pretty limited if, you look at the calendar. I mean, it's, 3 months out for combine and maybe 4 for pro day stuff. So it's just tight for him.
Yeah, it is. What determines a successful surgery for the ACL?
Well, obviously the surgeon has to do his job, which is to put in a graft to make a new ACL. And then, at least half or more is the rehab side. And so how do you prevent re-injury and have 100% recovery is to regain full strength, mobility, and athleticism. And that's why this takes so long to recover from. So it's a combination of a physician doing their part, athlete working hard, and having a great training team to get them back on track.
Can a rehab mishap mess up a successful surgery from the surgeon's part?
Well, you can always, I guess you could have a re-injury by doing too much too soon, or just not being either dedicated on the athlete side and doing the job they need to work, or having the appropriate instruction can certainly delay the recovery and success of it.
If Hendon Hooker does have the successful surgery, the rehab, and everything goes smoothly, when month part should he be back full go to where he could have an impact for whatever NFL team might be taking him?
I mean, that's the other hard part. You start marching the calendar and, trying to be ready for the beginning of the NFL season is going to be difficult. I mean, 9 months is probably, a realistic target. But even then people usually aren't 100%. And most people are pushing out a year before they're getting to that point where you would say completely recovered. I mean, obviously Adrian Peterson's the one that sort of shattered a little bit of that, being back in 8 months and blowing up records. But usually around that 9-month mark would hope to be able to be, out being playing quarterback type activities.
Yeah, with a quarterback, this is his left knee. He's a right-handed quarterback, so that's that front step into it type of leg. Or what are some things that you like to see some of your ACL patients who might play quarterback do to protect that early on in a recovery, maybe even after they're back playing? Is it you like to see somebody wear a brace in that knee just because it's vulnerable sticking out there for pass rushers or linemen?
I mean, we typically do. I mean, it's hard to quantitate how much an ACL brace is able to protect you. But I do think in that first season back, having a little bit of bracing for feedback and just trying to reinforce it the best we can. More than anything, we're just trying to have everything 100% as far as his muscle return, his kind of neurologic function where he's able to respond quickly to any kind of unexpected stress. And then probably the hardest thing sometimes building confidence, because we want him to trust it and be able to go out and play like nothing's happened. And that's hard when you've been through something like this. So building that confidence is a big part of recovery. And that's why you go through a stepwise progression where you try to add a little bit of stress in a controlled manner, build success, and then add to that as things go along.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. We went through it 13 years ago this week. Crazy how time flies. But Dr. Arthur, always appreciate you jumping on here and always good to talk to you. But I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving and a great rest of the week.
Same to you. Thanks for having me.
All right. That's Dr. Scott Arthur from the Bone and Joint Institute. Whenever you guys get hurt in life, they are the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Once again, boneandjointtn.org. And we'll talk to you guys later. Appreciate it as always. Thanks.